Level 1. The Volunteer. You are 20 years old when you walk into an Army recruiting office. You have no military family. 6 months ago, you were loading trucks at a warehouse for $19 an hour. The recruiter shows you an 18X contract. It gives you a chance to try out for Army Special Forces. He is careful with the word chance. The contract does not promise you a green beret. It only puts you on the road toward selection. If you fail, the Army will still decide where it needs you. Your mother asks why you cannot choose a normal Army job. Your friends think you watch too many war movies. You are tired of quitting things when they become difficult. You sign your name. Basic training removes some of your confidence. Infantry training removes the rest. You learn to move when you are cold and eat when you have 2 minutes. At airborne school, you stand in the aircraft door with your knees shaking. The soldier behind you cannot see your face. You jump. A few months later, you reach the Special Forces preparation course. Most of the men around you are faster or stronger. Some already have years in the Army. After a few weeks, you stop watching the other men and focus on tomorrow's run. Level 2. The Candidate. You are 21 when Special Forces assessment and selection begins. It lasts 24 days. Nobody tells you exactly what will happen next or what the instructors are writing on their clipboards. You run, carry logs, drag equipment through sand, and walk for hours under a rucksack that seems to get heavier each mile. The physical work is simple to understand. Your legs hurt, but you keep moving. The harder part is the uncertainty. One morning, your group must move several heavy objects across a field. Everyone has a plan. 2 men begin shouting over each other. A third man stops helping because nobody chose his idea. You say very little. You lift where the weight is worst and ask the quiet man beside you what he sees. His idea works. That evening, one of the strongest candidates is gone. You do not know why. Nobody explains it. During the final land navigation exercise, you spend hours alone in the woods. Rain enters your sleeves. Your feet are damaged, and you are no longer sure you are walking in the right direction. For 10 minutes, you stand beside a tree and think about stopping. Then you check the map again. You find the mistake. Your next point is less than a mile away. At the end of selection, an instructor reads the numbers of the men who have been chosen. Your number is near the end. You feel relief for about 5 seconds. Selection has not made you a green beret. It has only allowed you to begin the course. Level 3. The Medical Student. You ask for medicine, and the Army assigns you to it. The job code is 18D, Special Forces Medical Sergeant. At first, you think this means learning better first aid. Then the textbooks arrive. You study anatomy, drugs, trauma care, dentistry, and basic veterinary medicine. You learn what to do when there is no hospital nearby. The Special Operations Combat Medic course alone takes about 9 months. Your class begins with men who have already survived selection. That does not mean all of them will pass medicine. You spend most days in class, then study at night. During practical tests, an instructor can make a stable patient worse with 1 sentence. You fail your first major drug calculation test. The number on the page is small, but it frightens you more than anything at selection. On a real patient, a decimal point can matter more than how much weight you can carry. You study until 2 in the morning for the retest and pass. Later, you work through trauma lanes with fake blood covering your gloves. During clinical rotations, the patients are real. They do not care what course you are attending. The instructors teach you to keep a casualty alive for up to 72 hours when evacuation is delayed. After you control the first emergency, you may still manage the same patient for days. Medicine is only one part of the course. You also complete small unit tactics, survival training, Rob and Sage, and language training. By the time graduation arrives, Almost 2 years have passed since selection. You know more now, including how many things can go wrong. Level 4. The new Green Beret. You are 23 when your family watches you put on the Green Beret for the first time. The Army promotes you to Sergeant, E5, and awards you the Special Forces tab. Your mother takes more photographs than anyone else in the room. Your base pay is around $3,800 a month. Static line jump pay adds another $150. There can be language and special duty pay as well. You report to a Special Forces group and receive an assignment to an Operational Detachment Alpha, usually called an ODA or A-Team. The team has 12 positions, including 2 medical sergeants. You are one of the medics. The other 18D, Staff Sergeant Miller, has already completed 3 deployments. He opens your medical bag, removes half the items, and asks why you packed so much. You begin explaining. He stops you and asks how far you plan to carry it. For 6 months, you train with the team and study the language assigned to your region. You also check vaccinations, treat injuries, and order medical supplies. Nobody calls you the new guy after a few months. They do not need to. You can feel it every time the team waits for Miller's answer instead of yours. Level 5. The ODA Medic. You are 25 during your first deployment. Your team lives at a small base with a partner force. Most days are not raids. You teach trauma care and inspect medical supplies. You can discuss a gunshot wound in the local language, but you still cannot understand a joke at dinner. One afternoon, a truck arrives with a local boy in the back. He is 8 years old and has a deep cut in his leg from farm equipment. The nearest proper hospital is several hours away. His father has wrapped the wound in a dirty towel. Miller watches while you clean the wound, stop the bleeding, and check for deeper damage. The boy cries until you let him hold your flashlight. You close the injury and explain the antibiotics to his father through an interpreter. 2 weeks later, the boy returns walking on the leg. You keep the flashlight he gives back to you. It costs less than $20. It becomes the one piece of equipment you never remove from your bag. Months later, your team is moving with the partner force when an explosion injures 2 men. One has metal in his shoulder. The other is losing blood from his leg. You apply a tourniquet, give medication, and keep checking the time. The helicopter is delayed. Dust covers everything you open. The wounded man keeps asking about his brother. You do not know his brother, so you keep telling him what you are doing instead. Both men survive. That night, you sit behind the aid room and replay every choice. For the first time, Miller asks what you think before he gives his own answer. Level 6. The Senior 18D. You are 31 and now a Sergeant First Class, E7. You have completed 4 deployments. Miller has left the team, and you are the Senior Medical Sergeant. A new 18D named Parker now waits for your answer. You also have a wife, Hannah, and a 3-year-old son named Noah. Hannah knew what your work involved before you married. You still miss Noah's first day at preschool when your team leaves 2 weeks early. You watch a recording from the other side of the world. You track the team's health, plan medical support, and train partner forces. Every 3 years, you return to a civilian medical center to refresh your skills. On deployment, you may be the highest level of medical care available. During your 5th deployment, a partner soldier is shot in the chest. You and Parker work on him for 40 minutes. You use everything available. His heart stops twice. The second time, it does not start again. Parker believes he made a mistake. You review the treatment. There are small things both of you could have done faster, but none would have changed the wound. You tell him that because it is true. You do not tell him that you still remember the man's face when you try to sleep. When you return home, Noah is 4. He runs toward you at the airport, then slows down because your beard and uniform confuse him. It takes him a few seconds to recognize you. Those few seconds stay with you longer than the welcome home ceremony. Level 7. The Intelligence Sergeant. At 34, you attend the Special Forces Intelligence Sergeant course and become an 18F. Your medical bag goes to another man. You now work as the team's intelligence sergeant and assistant operations sergeant. Your job is to study the area before the team enters it. You read reports, question sources, and compare information that does not always agree. A bad decision can place the whole team in the wrong building. Before one mission, several reports point to the same target. The information looks strong, but the timing bothers you. One source claims he saw a vehicle on a day when the road was closed by flooding. You ask for the mission to be delayed. The detachment commander is not pleased. An aircraft and partner unit are already prepared. You explain the problem again. The team waits. The next day, new reporting shows that the building holds a family with no connection to the target. The original source wanted money and had copied details from somebody else. Nobody was hurt. There is no medal and no dramatic story to tell at home. For you, that becomes one of the best results of your career. At home, you talk less about work. Sometimes you are tired of explaining a life that keeps happening far away from Hannah. Level 8. The Team Sergeant. You are 38 when you are promoted to Master Sergeant, E8, and become an 18Z Team Sergeant. You are now the senior enlisted leader of an ODA. The team never stays as simple as the organization chart. One man is at a school, another is injured, a third may leave because his marriage is failing. You still train and deploy, but most problems now reach you before anyone else. On your second deployment as Team Sergeant, the detachment receives a mission in a remote district. The intelligence is incomplete, the weather is getting worse, and the evacuation plan depends on one aircraft. Now you ask what happens after the first person is hurt. You recommend changing the route and adding a day. Higher headquarters approves the delay. 2 months later, there is another operation. This time, a weapons sergeant named Ruiz is badly injured when a vehicle rolls on a mountain road. The young 18D treats him while you coordinate the evacuation. You want to take over. Your hands remember the work. You give the medic the space to do his job. Ruiz survives, but his army career does not. At the hospital, he asks whether the mission was worth his leg. You tell him the mission mattered. You cannot tell him what that should mean for the rest of his life. At home, Noah is 10. He has stopped asking exactly when you will return from trips. He has learned that the answer often changes. Level 9. The Sergeant Major. You are 43 when you become a Sergeant Major. For the first time in many years, you do not belong to one ODA. You advise a company commander and help oversee several teams. Your days are full of training schedules, personnel problems, equipment shortages, and mission reviews. Younger soldiers think senior rank means you can do anything you want. One team wants to keep an experienced medic who has a serious back injury. The medic says he can still deploy. His team agrees. You read the medical report and remove him from the mission. He enters your office angry. He says you have forgotten what it feels like to be on a team. You still sign the order. 6 months later, he sends you a message after surgery. The damage was worse than the doctors first believed. Another deployment might have left him with permanent nerve problems. You ask how his children are doing. At home, Hannah is building a life that does not depend on your schedule. Noah is learning to drive. You are present more often now, but being home still takes practice. You begin leaving your phone in another room during dinner. It is a small change. Hannah notices. Level 10. The Command Sergeant Major. You are 49 when you reach your final position as a command sergeant major. You have served for 29 years. Your uniform carries more badges now, but your knees hurt on stairs and your hearing is worse. You advise a commander responsible for hundreds of soldiers. You approve training plans, visit deployed units, and speak with families after accidents. Near retirement, you visit the schoolhouse where new 18D students are beginning medical training. The room smells like cleaning fluid. One student stares at a drug calculation problem as if it were written in another language. You recognize the look. He sees your rank and stands too quickly. Then he asks whether the course becomes easier. You tell him no. He becomes better. Before you leave, an instructor shows you the latest equipment. The bags are lighter now, and the monitors are smaller. In an old training box, you find the same cheap flashlight that a boy held during your first deployment. You pick it up, then put it back. On your final day in uniform, Hannah and Noah sit in front. Noah is 21, the same age you were at selection. He has chosen a civilian life. You are relieved. After the ceremony, you leave without the green beret on your head. For the first time since you were 20, the Army does not decide where you go next. Across the base, another group of candidates adjusts their rucksacks and waits for an instructor to speak. And somewhere, it is starting again.